Hello, 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 and welcome to another edition of Pioneer with Poncelet with me, Kevin Poncelet. Today, we're revisiting the humans that we played in the first article, 4-color humans, with today 5-color humans. A lot of bans have happened since that first article, since that first video went up, and we're going to mess around with another brew of humans, this time playing black for Kitesail Freebooter. And let's see how we can do today. So this opener here is pretty bad. It's only got 1 land and triple Freebooter. So we're going to mulligan. This one's much better. We're going to keep this. And since we've only got 2 lands, I want to put back the Collected Company, but it's probably correct to drop one of these Reflector Mages since we're on the draw and we have a Scry effect on turn 2 to try and find our 3rd and 4th land so we can curve right out into Coco. So I'm going to drop a Reflector Mage. Reflector Mage also obviously isn't that great against non-creature decks. It's the best card in our deck against the creature decks, but we'll see how it plays out here. So we've got 8 gold lands in the deck. Gold lands meaning they tap for any color for our humans. Mana Confluence taps for any color in general, but Unclaimed Territory is generally going to be put on human. And then we drew a Concealed Courtyard here, so we're going to curve right out, it looks like. I'm going to actually lead with the Concealed Courtyard to conceal a little bit of information. Our opponent led with a Blooming Marsh. It's pretty likely they're on some sort of black-green mid-range deck. Either that or Soul Flayer, or potentially Hardened Scales. But generally Hardened Scales has something to do on turn 1, depending on their build. Looks like Abzan. All right. Looks like they're going to lead with a little Grim Flare action here. Or possibly a Thoughtseize. Collective Brutality. All right, so a little bit punished for not bottoming the Collected Company since obviously that card is being taken here. And if we had bottomed the Collected Company, that Collective Brutality would have whiffed. So a little bit of downside there to not bottoming the Collected Company, but still I think it was the correct line. We're going to name human with this. In our main deck, we don't actually have any non-human creatures, but in the sideboard, once we're in game 2 or 3, if we have Deputy of Detention, we'd think about naming Wizard, which can cast Reflector Mage and Deputy of Detention. Think about naming Horror for Breaks and Revoker. I don't know why we would ever do that, but no, we would never do that. We're going to lead with Charming Prince here, just to maybe dig for more action. Manus Rider plays. Freebooter is also pretty good, but I'd rather have another land, I think, at this point. So we're going to top the Manus Rider, but we're going to bottom the Freebooter. So yeah, we're a deck that's playing Kitesail Freebooter and Mantis Rider, and we're able to cast both of those cards pretty much every time, which is a pretty cool place to be for a 5-color deck in Pioneer. In order to do that, we are playing some slightly suboptimal cards in like Rogue Refiner, but Rogue Refiner's not a bad card, all told. It replaces itself. It gives you some energy for your Aether Hubs, which we're playing 3 Aether Hubs in the main deck in order to fix our gold mana that we need for a lot of our creatures. And in order to like replenish our Aether Hubs, we have 4 Rogue Refiners in the deck. They also evolve Experiment 1. They're also humans for Thalia's Lieutenant. And a 3/2 body that draws you a card certainly isn't that bad. So that's why we're playing Rogue Refiner. It also plays pretty well with Collected Company. Here, I think it makes sense just to drop the Rider. But Reflector Mage also is pretty strong. Yeah, maybe we Reflector Mage while the getting's good here. Thought about riding, but this way we get in with the prince. So we only lose out on 1 damage, really. And our opponent can't recast Grimflayer, which is kind of nice. Now they're going to play a Tireless Tracker and a Fabled Passage. Yeah, that's really good. Tireless Tracker is a jerk. And I do think they were baiting the Reflector Mage with their first creature there. But yeah, them just hitting 2 clues off that tracker. Ooh, and a Fatal Push. Wow, what a turn. What a turn for our opponent there. It's going to be tough to come back from. That is going to be pretty tough. Wow. Yeah, I was feeling really good, and then that turn right there was pretty backbreaking. Not sure what we're going to do about that. Yeah, now they have a 4th card type in the yard for their Grimflayer, but I was always going to attack with Charming Prince there. We are the aggro in this matchup for sure. Yeah, that 4/4 is a problem. Uh-oh, why are they cracking this now? That's worrisome. Oof. Oh, brother. Opponent firing on all cylinders here. Ouch. Yeah, this is a problem. I guess we're going to go for the Reflector Mage play again. We're playing 23 lands. It's not that likely that we get stuck on 3 like this, but I guess we did scry a rider to the top that turn. We might be able to squeak this one out since we have the rider and we have a decent ground force here and they can't recast Grimflayer for a turn. So depending on what they draw, as long as they don't find like a Siege Rhino or anything like that, we could come back into this game and maybe give them a run for their money. Wow, another Fabled Passage. Yeah, we are certainly not winning any sort of game that goes more than 3 more turns. Yeah. Lily is okay. She's not anything too special at the moment. Obviously a powerful card, but we can certainly beat Lily. They return no cards to their hand? Oh, because they didn't want to... Wow, that worked out really well for us. I'm not sure why they didn't want to put the Tireless Tracker back in. Opponent seems to be upset about something, so I'm assuming that they meant to. Yeah, I think I probably attacked wrong there. I probably was just supposed to send Mantis Rider at Liliana and send everything else at them, and we would have dealt a little bit more damage. Instead, I sent both 2/3s at Liliana just to make sure Liliana died. But yeah, I do regret that. Well, they're just dead because they cracked all their clues. All right, well, that worked out. I was super scared that they were going to bury us in card advantage there, but Mantis Rider did get the job done. All right, I'll take it. So they're going to be trying to kill all our dudes. So I feel like Zathrid Necromancer is going to be pretty good. Rest in Peace seems quite good in this matchup against Grim Flayer and Traverse the Ulvenwald. Potentially Ishkana in their deck as well, since they're playing that combination of cards. They're probably like Abzan Delirium on some level. Not sure about Revoker. It's obviously decent against Liliana the Last Hope. But other than that, we're not really sure how good it is. So not sure about that. Deputy is obviously fine. But I'm not sure that we want Deputy more than something like Reflector Mage. And we certainly want all the Rogue Refiners and Thraben Inspectors in this matchup. I also feel like Kithian is fine in this matchup. So actually it might be like Experiment 1 that gets boarded out here, which is strange because that's our most aggressive creature. We could also drop like some amount of Freebooter. Freebooter is good. It takes Lily, it takes Abrupt Decay, Fatal Push, that sort of thing. But also they have a lot of that sort of thing, so they're going to probably be able to kill the Freebooter at some point. And I mean, worst case is it eats a removal spell and they get their thing back, so it's actually not too bad. And I think we do want to keep our curve pretty compact there, pretty heavy on 2s. So yeah, I think I'm actually going to drop the E1s. We're on the draw, so we're less likely to be able to run them over, and the game is going to go a little later, and because of that, I think we want a configuration more like this. Even though E1, the regenerate clause is really nice. Dromoka's Command is a card that's perfectly reasonable in this matchup. Same with Deputy of Detention. But I think leaving it pretty much what we have in our main deck and just keeping all our value engines is probably correct here. And we'll use Zathrid Necromancer as like a continued value engine and try to just go wide and take him down like we did last game. Certainly didn't fully expect to win that game there. Yeah. But our opponent went with the triple Clue Crack on the following turn, which was strange to me. Yeah, we're going to keep this hand. It's pretty solid. We've got 3 lands. We've got all our colors. We've got everything we want, basically. Just no 1-drop, but we just have fewer 1-drops in our deck with the Experiment 1s out. It's pretty good. Here I think I'm going to lead with Kitesail Freebooter. Maybe not, now that they played a 2-2. Yeah, I guess I'll lead with Charming Prince. Just do a little scrying. We really actually don't need any more lands. Since our hand is all 3-drops, we can just play those every turn. I wouldn't mind a 3rd land. Like Inspiring Vantage is pretty good here. I mean, a 4th land, that is. Aether Hub's not good because we don't have a Rogue Refiner. So we're definitely going to bottom that. But Inspiring Vantage next turn allows us to not take as much damage going forward. We already have a way to cast all our black cards in Unclaimed Territory and Mana Confluence. So yeah, 4th land. I'll take the 4th land. We do want to draw a Collected Company at some point. And eventually hitting 5 so we can double spell is also kind of useful. We could have honestly just kept both of those cards, but they might have a removal spell here, and that thing has Trample, so that's pretty good for them. Yeah, Moment of Craving. All right. That one I haven't seen in a while. Pretty good against aggressive decks, though. But it's a 2-mana disfigure, so it doesn't seem good enough for Pioneer, but I don't know. Who knows? They got their little Scry 3 in with the Grim Flayer. Just in case they have more removal, I think it makes more sense just to get Reflector Mage into play here. Get that thing off the board for a turn. Although they're very likely just to Tireless Tracker plus Fabled Passage next turn. Which is what they did last game when we did this. They binned the Siege Rhino, which means they might have more Siege Rhino. Ooh, they missed their land drop? Okay, alright. I'm into this. I'm going to lead with Zathra Necromancer here and Thraben Inspector. So that we get some value in case they wipe the board. I don't want to just like play a Mantis Rider there and it just gets wiped. But they kept the other 2 cards on top, which is really strange to me when they miss their land drop. Usually when you're not going to hit your land drop, you're gonna scry some lands to the top, but seems as though they didn't do that. And also they're going to go for a Fatal Push on Thraben Inspector. All right. That's fine. Might as well get while the getting's good here and just resolve this Coco. Don't want to leave it in our hand. I guess we'll just scry 2. No real reason to exile Dahlia's Lieutenant here. We might as well just have a 2/2. Rogue Refiner is great. Kitesail Freebooter number 2. I mean, we can cast both Kitesail Freebooters next turn, which is pretty great, actually. So I think we'll just top. That way, if they have 2 removal spells, we can just take both of them. And that pumps our Thalia's Lieutenant twice. We still have Mantis Rider backup. Yeah, this is looking really good for us here. Let's leave with the first one. See what they're working with. Because they got to have something here. Assassin's Trophy on the Necromancer. Okay. We don't actually have any basics in our deck. So that's kind of a bummer about playing this 5-color humans deck is we're not playing basics. So yeah. Witch's Vengeance, Moment of Craving. Wow, Witch's Vengeance is really good against us. And we're going to have to take that Moment of Craving as well. Leaving them with a Scavenging Ooze. with only one green source, Scavenging Ooze is not that scary. And they're going to scoop them up. But Witch's Vengeance would have been really good against us. That's a card that not a lot of people are playing anymore because there are just fewer and fewer tribal decks. But Witch's Vengeance is pretty good. All right, welcome to round 2 with 5-color humans. We've got a pretty good hand here with 1-drop, 2-drop, 4-drop, and 4 lands. So we're going to keep this on the play. Experiment 1 isn't the best with Dahlia's Lieutenant. It's a bit awkward because Dahlia's Lieutenant's only a 1/1, so it only evolves it once with its ability, unfortunately. I'm going to lead with Temple Garden untapped into E1 here. 4 lands collected company means we're going to be doing something very powerful on turn 4. Oof, Arboreal Grazer. So it's mono green ramp here. And we drew another land, which was not ideal. Hopefully we find something to do next turn. If we hit something to do next turn and get to go 1, 2, 3, 4, then I feel like we can maybe get this one, but it's going to be tough. Their deck goes way over the top of us, and with a good draw, which they have so far, it's going to be, ooh, wow, punished. I just had a lapse of judgment on our previous turn and played a land that could not cast Mantis Rider on turn 3. I didn't think about it. I'll be honest. Just had a total lapse of judgment there. Huge punt. And now we're unable to do anything on turn 3, which is probably going to mean we lose this game, unfortunately. The Mantis Rider that turn would have been a big deal. Also shouldn't have attacked with Thalia into the Rejuvenator. Yeah, that was a really bad turn. Yeah. Hopefully this is a really good collected company. Maybe we'll hit like a Kitesail Freebooter and take their Ugin. But woof, was that a bad turn? Yeah, it shouldn't have probably attacked with the Lieutenant there either. Well, I guess we can do a little scrying. And we can draw a card. Didn't really want to bounce the Grazer. It just doesn't do that much with the Reflector Mage. So decided not to. Could also blink the Rogue Refiner and just draw another card. But I think Scry 2 happening previous to the draw card seems pretty good. Freebooter's good. We want that next turn. Since next turn, well, next turn they'll probably cast something big like a World Breaker or a... well, World Breaker means we probably want the Reflector Mage as well. So I guess we'll put both on top. Or just top the Reflector Mage, since next turn they could easily cast an Ugin. And if they have it, we lose. I mean, it doesn't matter what we put in our hand this turn, I guess. Might as well just top both. Can't cast anything else this turn. Opponent at 20 with access to 10 mana next turn on their turn 4. So certainly not going to win this game, I don't think. This is like playing against Tron. Blast Zone. All right, so they didn't have a payoff, so that worked out pretty well for us. Yeah, I'm going to lead with Freebooter here and make sure that I can cast Mantis Rider afterwards. Last card is a Forest. Makes sense. That's why they didn't cast anything. So we're going to make white, blue, and red. Attack with everybody. Blast Zone going up to 3 kills Magus Rider and Rogue Refiner, which isn't great. Yeah, it's not great. But we still have a decent attack force through that. As long as they keep whiffing, which they did not. Alright. There's a World Breaker. They're going to kill a land, which isn't such a big deal. And we get to bounce it, which is great. But they have exactly enough mana to World Break a land and also crack Blast Zone. So things are pretty bad for us here. Since we're pretty incentivized to cast a Reflector Mage pre-combat. So that hurts really bad. Yeah, that's just really awful for us here. Yeah. This is pretty awful. All right, I suppose we're going to go for it now. White, white. Blue. World Breaker's not exactly a card you want to bounce, but kind of have to here. And they're going to crack Blast Zone. Killing all our 3 drops, unfortunately. They're only taking 4 here. And then we're going to play a Rogue Refiner. Blue and green. Drawing another Reflector Mage is pretty solid. Alright, so we might be able to take him down if they don't find an Ugin. So, yeah, I think we just bounce the Grazer here and kill them. All right. Whew. All right, I was really sweating there. I thought we were going to die. But it worked out. Reflector Mage, even though it's not amazing in this matchup, pretty bad, in fact, in this matchup, it did enough. So yeah, we want Sin Collector. We want to take those Hour of Promise, those Nissa's Pilgrimage, that type of effect. Phyrexian Revoker is going to be pretty good on Ugin. And otherwise, we don't really have much. I guess Rest in Peace can stop them from buying back a World Breaker, World Breaker. I think that's the name of that card. But we're probably not going to be able to put it in their graveyard in the first place. So we want to go fast. We want Kythian. We want the Raven Inspectors. We want Experiment 1. We don't really need the Reflector Mages as good as they were there. Bouncing their creatures is generally not what we want to be doing. And then Charming Prince is fine, but I probably don't want a ton of those. Deputy of Detention can take a World Breaker. You can also take multiple Grazers, multiple Rejuvenators, that sort of thing. But I don't really think that's worth it. Yeah, I'm just going to go with the Revokers and the Sin Collectors here. And cut the Reflector Mages. So we're a little less explosive. Well, not really less explosive. really, but Revoker isn't a human, so it makes us a little bit slower. This hand is good. We have Thalia's Lieutenant into Mantis Rider into Coco, or Rogue Refiner if we whiff on our 4th land. Well, actually, we need a green source, but regardless, we can cast Rogue Refiner. So we're going to keep this hand. It's pretty solid. Kitesail Freebooter and Sin Collector are like our best 2 cards, but our other best cards are just like curving out and killing our opponent fast. Which hopefully we're able to do here. Llanowar Elves. I haven't seen that. That's pretty interesting. There's our green source, so that's good. We're going to lead with that. Tapped. But yeah, I actually have not seen Llanowar Elves in these decks yet. That's new to me. Turn 2 Rejuvenator. It's kind of cool. They get like more grazers, basically. Gonna name human. And get this lieutenant out there. The second rider that we just drew is pretty good. We're not going to block. Do you have Hour of Promise on turn 3? No. Cavalier of Thorns. Oh, no. Oh, jeez. Well, we boarded out all our Reflector Mages, so we probably can't beat that card, unfortunately. I'm going to lead with Freebooter. That's a beating at turn 3, Cavalier of Thorns. Our lieutenant can eventually get bigger than it. Ooh, wow. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, they're going to cast a World Breaker next turn. We cannot win this game. All right, so we need those Reflector Mages back in. And I guess I'm going to get rid of the Revokers. Since, I mean, Revoker is actually good against Llanowar Elves and Ugin. Maybe we leave the Revokers, but we have to cut something here. Thraben Inspector is a little slow. Reflector Mage needs to get in. Yeah, this looks about right. Maybe Kithian for Charming Prince number 4. Yeah, let's try that. Kithian is not very good against Llanowar Elves or Elvish Rejuvenator is the main issue there. When it flips, it's nice, but this hand's fine. I guess we'll keep it. We could turn 2 Revoker if they have a turn 1 Elf, which is pretty solid. Lead with Hallowed Fountain tapped. Grazer, yeah, that's the one we don't interact with Revoker. Unfortunately, gonna pay 2 life and play Thalia's Lieutenant here. And then we're just going to play 3 power creatures for a while. Hopefully our opponent doesn't have anything too crazy. Like Cavalier of Thorns on turn 3 again. Alright, so we could name Llanowar Elves with Revoker there. So on turn 2, they played another Grazer and played a Forest, which put them to 3 lands. They played a Grazer, played another Forest, so they might have more lands in hand, but they might not. And turning off Cavalier of Thorns here seems pretty good. It's either that or we play a Rogue Refiner. Try to draw into like a Reflector Mage or something for Cavalier. We also do need to like start pressuring our opponent, which Manus Rider does much better. So I'm going to lead with Manus Rider, actually. It adds 4 points of power to the board, all of which can attack this turn. We're not attacking with Lieutenant, but just because they have the Grazers. And they are going to block with a Grazer. Please no Cavalier of Thorns. Yeah, that card's really, really, really good against us. Yep. Turns out 5/6 reach pretty solid against us. At least they put an Osower and Ugin into their graveyard, though. Walkie B for 3. I guess we can name Walkie B with Revoker. How did they do it for 3 with... Oh, yeah. That makes sense. Yeah, I'm going to revoke Walkie B, and they're probably going to respond.
Still a thing? Always.
Whoa.
Always a thing. If our opponent just plays Safara...
Huh. That was weird. Alright, they're going to go and kill the Rogue Refiner, it looks like. Name Walking Ballista. Gonna play Kitesail Freebooter. Taking their Ugin, hopefully. Whoa. Alright, well that's great. That we have a Revoker on Walking Ballista and their hand is 2 Walking Ballistas. Yeah, that's fantastic. They can still make a 3/3, a couple 3/3s, but we can potentially beat those. Eventually, we're going to have a huge Lieutenant that's just going to be the Abyss. But our opponent's deck goes much bigger than ours. So it's going to be... Well, there's a 4/4, yeah. So it's going to be difficult. They're just going to play some 4/4s for the next couple turns. If they don't draw Ugin or Worldbreaker, if they do, then they have an Ugin or Worldbreaker in play. And we lose. But... yeah, as it stands, we're playing Magic here at least. Yeah, I think we just want to dig for Reflector Mage. Certainly don't want these lands. All right. Ooh. Actually, that attack's pretty bad. Now they just block with Cavalier and they grab Ugin and we lose. Yeah, I forgot about the... as soon as I attacked, I remembered what Cavalier of Thorns does when it dies. So I'm going to go ahead and concede this match here. If they do in fact put Ugin on top of their deck, this game is very over. No, they're choosing not to. Oh, all right. Well, I made a bad attack, but our opponent did not capitalize on it. They're content just to play 4/4s for a little bit. So you're telling me there's a chance. So collected company could find... I wish we had Deputy of Detention. That would be so good. But we did not actually board that card in. We do want to hit some way to get this Cavalier out of the way. And on 5 lands, we can't quite double spell here anyway. So yeah, we're going to Coco. Sin Collector, Charming Prince. Sin Collector is unlikely to do anything useful here. Charming Prince draws us a card off Rogue Refiner or scries us 2. Either way, kind of good. Experiment 1. It's not much better than Sin Collector. So maybe it is Sin Collector. We'll just see what they have. Maybe we'll get lucky and hit something. And Experiment 1 can't really get bigger than like a 3/3. So it's not super great against the Walking Ballistas anyway. Let's do that. Let's blink the Rogue Refiner, I think. They have another Walking Ballista in their hand. Okay. That's ridiculous. But, so... They didn't block with Cavalier of Thorns last time. They might block with 2 Ballistas here, which I'm not really interested in. I think we're just going to wait and try to go extremely wide. Wish we could have played that on our turn. Or on our last turn, but we didn't draw the card until the end step because of how Charming Prince works. So they're going to play another 4/4. Luckily, they're not able to activate these Ballistas. But 4/4s are still pretty solid on this board. So we're going to have to go extremely wide and just draw a million... collected companies, I guess. So we're going to go green. All right, Reflector Mage is solid. We were looking for that at some point. At this point, though, giving them a blast zone could be really bad. So I'm actually not sure I want to bounce the Cavalier, especially before we find another lieutenant so we can pump the rest of our team and start attacking through these Ballistas. They found a Sanctum, so that's problematic. That means whatever they draw next, they get a second one. We can double Reflector Mage, but that's not super useful. I guess we can bounce Cavalier and attack with the Flyers, which is pretty good. So let's do that. Let's go... You can also attack with Thalia's Lieutenant. Bounce Cavalier. It's also good because it's not a colorless creature, so they're not going to be able to use any kind of shenanigans with the Sanctum there. I think we want to attack like this. If I swing out, I don't think that's correct. I think we have next turn to swing out. If they want to triple block Thalia's Lieutenant with Walking Ballistas, they can. No, they're not interested in that. Okay. So next turn we may be swinging out. We'll See how it goes here. No, they found a blast zone. All right, right now it's not that good, so we have to make a move right now. And we're going to bounce a walking ballista, I suppose, and just get in there. Don't have any time for math right here. We're just gonna swing. Who's got time for math? They likely won't die, but hopefully they'll be close enough to dead that using a blast zone on 3 doesn't just annihilate us. Oh, they're just gonna crack the blast zone. Ooh, I should have sacrificed the 2 counters on. Ooh, yeah, that was bad. Oh, we won anyway. All right, that's great. Didn't do any math there, obviously. That was our only line, and we won the match. I was almost going to scoop because we attacked and gave them the Ugin, but we ended up getting there. Pretty pumped on that. Well, not sure we deserved that one, but I'll take it. All right, welcome to round 3. We are 2-0 so far. We beat Green Ramp and Abzan mid-range so far. Let's see. This hand is reasonable, so I'm going to keep it, but it's not my favorite hand. I'd love to have 1 drop, but 4 lands with 2 fairly powerful 3 drops is decent. It doesn't have a Reflector Mage, nor does it have a Collected Company, so it's a little bit weak in certain situations, especially drawing extra lands now. Gets a little weaker, but we're going to lead with this Temple Garden tapped. Pass the turn. We do have to sequence our lands correctly so that we can Mantis Rider, not like we did in the last game. Ooh, Elementals, huh? Elementals. Drawing a 6th land there was certainly not what we wanted. So I'm feeling like we're going to need some much better draw steps going forward. Risen Reef, yeah. Elementals. This seems like probably not a good matchup. We can be fast and go underneath them, but that is... Wow, did I really play Concealed Courtyard last turn? All right, well, I guess we're going to play Rogue Refiner, and maybe that's what we wanted to do anyway. I talked about sequencing so that we could cast Mantis Rider, and then did not. I don't agree with the decision to not do that. I would take that back if I had the chance. Can't really attack into the 0-3. Another Cavalier of Thorns deck, 2 in a row, huh? I like that Pioneer has a bunch of like random cards from standards past that are playable. Quasi-duplicate. Oh, whoa. It's getting real out here. Oh, wow. Opponent going off. All right. It's just blue-green Risen Reef .deck. Quasi-duplicate. Yeah, and we've drawn all of our lands, which is, obviously great. Just kidding. At least we can attack now. So we've got that going for us. But yeah, drawing the 8th land there, obviously not ideal. We're playing 23. I was playing 22 previously in this build, but with 4 Cocos, it's really nice to have a 23rd, even with the 4 Rogue Refiners and 4 Thraben Inspectors that can help us, and 4 Charming Princes that can all help us draw into our 4th land. It is still nice to have a 23rd, because getting stuck on 2 or 3 is quite bad for this deck. But our draws were not great, and our opponent quasi-duplicating their Risen Reef is quasi-multiplying their chances of winning the game. Nissa, who shook the world. So I suppose this is a Hydroid Crisis deck as well. Certainly can't beat any kind of payoff here. Cavalier of Thorns. Certainly can't beat that. I hope this isn't a trend in Pioneer that everybody's playing Cavalier of Thorns, because I think generally my decks can't beat that card. Yeah, we're just going to go to the next game. Wicked Wolf. All right, so they're like Simic ramp with elementals as sub theme. Pretty interesting. I think we want all the removal. We want Revoker for Nissa and Leafkin Elemental, Leafkin Dryad. Not sure, I don't remember what it's called. Thraben Inspector is a little slow. Kithian does not attack very well into Risen Reef or Leafkin Elemental. So I think we can lose a couple of those. And then I want to drop a couple Rogue Refiners as well. And just kind of... this type of sideboard plan is what we're going to do a lot of the time against the mid-rangey decks. But this one is a bit more of a ramp deck. Not mid-rangey. I guess like decks that need their permanents really badly. Deputy of Detention is very good against. And then Revoker on Nissa is really important, it looks like. So we're going to go with this. I like Dramoka's Command here too, but I'm not sure what I want to cut for it. It might be just like a couple princes for a couple Dramoka's Commands. But if we cut a couple 2-drops for Dramoka's Command, we probably can't cast Dramoka's Command until turn 4, at which point is it actually doing anything? Maybe not. So I'm just going to run it like this. Dramoka's is probably fine, though. It's not like it's going to kill a Cavalier of Thorns, but it does do pretty good work against their smaller creatures like Risen Reef, which is pretty important. All right, that's a keeper. It's a little awkward because we have a non-human and unclaimed territory. But we get a couple of experiment ones into play, and if we draw another land, like maybe a Mana Confluence, we're like totally golden here. Charming Prince, also pretty solid. Actually going to lead with the Prince since we want to hit that 3rd land pretty badly. And I'm going to name Human because we just have more ways to... Gilded Goose, interesting. We have more reasons to name Human than to name like Wizard or something. So, all right, Aether Hub allows us to cast both creatures. Oof. Could also name Wizard with this to allow casting the Deputy. If we take the Aether Hub, we can cast Madness Rider or Deputy, but then we can't cast the other one until we find a Rogue Refiner or another land. So I think I'm going to bottom the Aether Hub, and I'm going to top the Unclaimed Territory. get in there for 2 with experiment 1. Looks like the lights are going down in the city. So we're going to turn on a light. All right. All right, I sense some weakness from our opponent here. So I think what I want to do is play Mantis Rider. And in order to do that, we're going to have to name human again. But we want to just get, while the getting's good, we want to curve right out and just get that damage in while we can. And this is 8 damage. So we're threatening lethal next turn. I'm just going to make another food. That is totally fine. So next turn with Thalia's Lieutenant, we have more than lethal. The problem is they could just block with Goose, but maybe they'll use the Goose here to cast a 4-drop. We do have Deputy stranded in our hand here, but any blue source or gold land allows us to keep or cast the Deputy. Wicked Wolf, ouch. That's pretty good. They're gonna eat the Charming Prince. Okay, that's fine. Huh. I mean, they can just sack this food and make that indestructible and block our experiment 1. We can then just remove 2 counters from the experiment 1. But maybe it's better not to do that, since we might draw a blue source so we can bounce, or remove the Wicked Wolf next turn, giving us more than lethal. Yeah, I think it's better just to hold back the E1. They have access to 5 mana here. It's time for Nissa or Cavalier. They're just basically playing standard. I wonder if they're playing any non-standard cards. Well, I'm sure they're playing Oko. Yeah, there's a Cavalier. All right, at least they don't have a food now for the Wicked Wolf, which is kind of nice. But yeah, they're basically just playing... I wonder if they're playing anything that's Botanical Sanctum and Breeding Pool. So they're just playing the standard Simic food deck with better lands and Elvish Mystics. Kind of funny. But also very good. So we need a blue source. We found one. So we get to eat the Cavalier and get in for a lot. They're probably going to chump with the elves. Oh, they're just going to concede. Oh, because they were dead because they paid 2 life for the breeding pool. Yeah. I didn't even notice that they were at 4. Yeah, they're obviously just dead. because the Mantis Rider was going to finish them off there. I didn't consider that they could have paid 2 life for that breeding pool. And they certainly did. Always pay attention to your opponent's life total. It's pretty important in the game of Magic the Gathering. So we got game 2. I don't feel good about game 3 on the draw, but what can we do to make it slightly better? It does look like Dromoka's Command on a Mana Dork might be worth it. Maybe. Having a 1-drop does seem kind of useful. Revoker can name Oko or Nissa, both very good, or Gilded Goose or Llanowar Elves or whatever. Yeah, actually, the makeup of our deck looks pretty good right now, so I'm just going to run it back. Dromoka's Command is the closest card to getting in there, and Rogue Refiner, I guess, would be the card I would look to maybe trim, but all right, we can't cast Mantis Rider with this hand, but we can cast everything else, and I think 2 Revokers is pretty strong, so I'm going to keep on the draw here. Ideal top deck would be Experiment 1, which does evolve off these non-human creatures, which is really nice. All right, that's not ideal, but not bad. Our hand only has 1 other human in it for the Thalia's Lieutenant, so it's a little awkward, but we did board in 7 non-human creatures. All right, so I may just name the Goose with Revoker next turn. Since they didn't have an Oko, I think they would have cast Oko. I'd rather name Goose than Elves there. I think it just generates more value. Although them having to sack a food this turn to ramp might have been better than mitigating against the future foods generated by the Gilded Goose. Not sure. But they're attacking with Llanowar Elves, so it looks like it didn't really matter either way. Looks like their hand was a bit awkward, in fact. Yeah, just going to name human with this and actually get the party started. Oops. Getting in there with these 2. I guess they could have Brazen Borrower here and block Mantis Rider. That would be pretty good. Pretty good removal spell for Mantis Rider. They're likely to have something to do with 5 mana next turn. Oh, they're going to bounce it first. Yeah, that's maybe more annoying. So here's 5 mana. What giant beefy thing are you going to do? Nissa. Okay. So revoking Nissa isn't as good because they're still going to get double mana off that forest. They're already going to make it 3/3. But it's still something we have to do. And since we're going to revoke Nissa, I'd like to get Thalia's Lieutenant into play, I think. Well, maybe not, actually. Could just deputy the Nissa. But then Deputy just gets eaten by a Wicked Wolf, and they get their Nissa back and get to use it again, which sounds really terrible. Yeah, you know what? I'm just going to revoke Nissa. And we're going to be very far behind, but I think we're very far behind here no matter what happens. Play the Concealed Courtyard tapped. Next turn, we can double spell with Mantis Rider and Thalia's Lieutenant. Getting us a 4/4, which is really important here. I'm worried about the Risen Reef. That's certainly something I'd want to Deputy. But yeah, we're looking to survive the onslaught here, which so far we're not super capable of, but then we're looking to turn the corner when we can. Quasi-duplicate. All right, so now I'm probably just going to have to Deputy of D the Risen Reeves. Which means we're not doing anything else this turn, which is pretty unfortunate. We can double Mantis Rider the turn after, though. So that's kind of good. They don't have anything good to quasi-duplicate here, so that's also pretty good. But they did just draw a couple cards. So hopefully those cards weren't that great. Maybe just more Nissas. That would be ideal. Just please draw every single one of your Nissa who shakes the world. And certainly none of your Oko. Uh-oh. They're going to Elk our Revoker, which turns back on their Nissa. No, they're going to Elk the food, really. Oh, they're just thinking that they can aggro us out here. Okay, that's fine. That is fine. Go on the aggro route. Red, white, blue. So yeah, we could have cast 2 Mantis Riders here, which would be pretty good, but then Brazen Borrower gets them. So we're going to go 1 and Lieutenant to make it a 4/4. Kind of have to go at Oko, unfortunately. They can just block with Gilded Goose. Oh, they're just going to let it go to 1. All right. Yeah, we're in a very, very bad spot. Yeah. Yeah, things are quite bad at the moment. Entrancing Melody. Yeah, that's game. All right, so we just got standard Simic fooded to death. Yeah, I don't know. Too many powerful planeswalkers. Not much we could have done there. Like, yeah, we needed to have a hand like we did in game 2 where we can kind of just like wait them out and go wide. Not really wait them out, but we need to be like aggressive and also able to interact with what they're doing, and being on the draw against them is going to be extremely difficult. I don't like that matchup very much. All right, so welcome to game 3. I mean, round 4, that is. Welcome to round 4 with 5-color humans. We are 2-1 at the moment. We just lost to blue-green food. Sand is reasonable, so I'm going to keep it. We can't cast Freebooter, but we can cast everything else with a couple more lands. And Freebooter is likely to be able to get cast once the Charming Prince resolves. And we scry a little bit, fly a little bit, fly a little more, make our opponent cry a little more. That's what we're looking to do here. Elvish Mystic. So maybe another food deck. Rogue Refiner, not really what we wanted to draw, but with the Charming Prince, I still feel pretty confident that we're going to hit our land drops. Alright, looks more like a red-green aggro deck here. Holding up Stomping Ground, but passing the turn. Once Upon a Time is banned, so I know it's not Once Upon a Time. But anyway, we're going to play Charming Prince like we were intending on doing. Worth noting, we could have cast Kitesail Freebooter there, but I'd rather scry. There's a Mana Confluence and an Inspiring Vantage. Our life total is going to matter a bit, so I think I'm going to bottom the Mana Confluence and top the Inspiring Vantage here. Because we have Rogue Refiner to refuel our Aether Hub, so we're going to be able to cast all of our spells. So we don't need the Mana Confluence. It's just going to end up hurting us a little more than we want to be hurt. So they're thinking about shocking the Charming Prince here, I would assume. No, Stomp. Yeah, that makes more sense. Stomping. Yeah. Makes a bunch of sense. That Bone Crusher Giant is annoying because it's not a card you really want to bounce back to your opponent's hand with Reflector Mage. Because interestingly, Stomp is not the same name as Bone Crusher Giant, so they are able to stomp even after you bounce it, and then it just puts it back into exile. They can recast it later. All right, so we're going to play the Vantage. And I believe we just get Mantis Rider into play. We're just going to trade with that Bone Crusher Giant. Another way to do that would have been Rogue Refiner, but I think I'd rather get some damage in. Possibility Storm. Oh, it's that deck. Okay. Huh. Well, we're likely dead. It's very unfortunate. Oh. Right. So yeah, I forgot that Possibility Storm was going to trigger, and we were going to find some other things. Yeah, I guess Reflector Mage and Rogue Refiner seem pretty good. We need to somehow close this game out, which is pretty unlikely because they're likely just going to win the game on the following turn. With Enter the Infinite. Yeah. Yep. Ooh. Oops. Apologize for all that. Rigmos. Cast it. We're dead. All right. So if you're unfamiliar with how Possibility Storm works, they don't play any sorceries in their deck other than Enter the Infinite, so that when they use Lovestruck Beast, Heart's Desire, it just searches their deck for Enter the Infinite. They cast it. They put all their cards in their hand. They put one back. They put back Bobarigmos Enraged. They cast it, a Llanowar Elf or whatever they want, and it's going to hit Bobarigmos Enraged, which is going to come into play, and they're going to discard all their lands and kill us. So I guess Revoker on Bobarigmos is pretty good. That sounds actually kind of nice. Although they are going to have access to Stomp after they draw their deck, so maybe not. But Revoker on Llanowar Elves and Elvish Mystic is also fine. Kithian, I'm not a huge fan of here. Dramoka's Command is quite good because it makes them sacrifice their Possibility Storm and also is useful for just normal creature things. And then Deputy is also pretty good. So I'm going to cut the Thraben Inspectors since we want to go fast. But we also want to interact. And I guess like 2 Rogue Refiners and 2 Charming Princes. Because I don't want to cut all the Rogue Refiners. Because we do want to be able to turn on these Aether Hubs in the later game. So I'm going to run it like this. Excuse me here. Just got to bring this into the other side. Cool. And we're going to go first. This hand is pretty solid. We're going to keep. It's a little bit painful with the mana base, but we're going to get to go 1, 2, 3. Have 2 flyers, 3, 3. 2 3 3s, 2 flyers. It's a pretty good hand. Pretty good curve. Gonna lead with Freebooter just to see if they did hit a possibility storm or not. Nope, we're gonna whiff on that. Really hate the templating on Freebooter for Magic Online, because right now we have to, can we highlight? No. So they just have double of every creature, every card that was in their hand here. And it moves the things over seemingly at random when you're doing this. But I think these are the 7 cards, or the 6 cards. Yeah, the 6 cards that they have in their hand. Really dislike the templating for that, or just the way that it resolves for Magic Online is a bit annoying, but you know, it's workable. Shifting Ceratops is interesting here. I'm gonna just play 2 Llanowar Elves, that's fine. Hornet's Nest is interesting too. So we need blue, red, and white. Unfortunate that our Kitesail whiffed there, but it's likely to, as long as they don't have Enter the Infinite in their hand or Possibility Storm in their hand. But I still think it was worth it to play that first. It's also a flyer, which is nice. So now they can Ceratops, which is pretty annoying. We actually can't really beat that card once it's in play. Protection from blue is extremely good against us. We can Deputy a couple elves, which is pretty good. Suppose we'll lead with that. But yeah, we're unable to attack here, which is a pretty big deal. They found their 3rd land. So we know 2 of their 3 cards. And Bobergmos isn't doing anything for a while, but Lovestruck Beast is pretty good. How do we beat this guy? I think we're just going to draw a card here. Dig for ways to go around him. And pay 2 life to scry 2 here. Could also just exile the Rogue Refiner just to draw a card. But I think scry 2 is actually slightly better. Another Rogue Refiner and another Mana Confluence. Another Rogue Refiner is pretty good. Leave that on top. Yeah, we can't attack. Shifting Ceratops, folks. That one's going to be difficult. Hornet's Nest, I mean, I think it's on the spectrum of janky to not janky. It's fairly heavy in the janky side, but it's definitely doing a thing. It's like a little Hornet Queen, which is kind of good. we're just gonna have to kill them in one fell swoop, which this Deputy of D is gonna help a lot with. This time I'm considering just blinking a Rogue Refiner just to get more actual cards, but I'm gonna scry 2 instead still. All right, don't want that, do want that. So next turn we're going to get to Deputy, their Hornet's Nests. They're still going to have a 5/5 Lovestruck Beast, unfortunately, but... Ooh. Are they going to tap out for the Beast? Oh, can't give Ceratops reach here. That's really good. That is huge for us. All right, let's do it. Oops. That needs to tap for white. Let's get the nests. Trigger. And... oh, what's happening here? Oh, they scooped. All right. So that worked out really well that they tapped out for the Lovestruck Beast. I think that was probably a pretty big mistake from our opponent. But yeah, we were able to take over. All right, so Possibility Storm. I don't think we want to do anything different. I mean, Hornet's Nest is annoying. Shifting Ceratops is quite annoying. We do actually have a way to beat it with Dramoka's Command. So that's going to be really our only out to it. And obviously it has to be done on a creature that's not blue. So like Experiment 1 with Dramoka's Command, or like Athalia's Lieutenant with Dramoka's Command are the ways we can actually kill the Shifting Ceratops. Otherwise we're going to have a lot of issue there, but I think we're just going to run it back. I think Revoker is pretty solid. Since we can name Boborygmos, we can name Elvish Mystic. Cannot keep a 1-lander though. Just not interested. And that's a keep though. That's a good one. We've got 4 lands. We do need the green source for Collected Company, so we're going to have to keep Mana Confluence. And I'd like to keep both Unclaimed Territories because they cast everything, like even... yeah, but we already have 2 gold lands, so we really don't need it. Yeah, I'm going to drop one of the Unclaims. Alright, so we're on the draw here. That's a pretty solid draw. Gonna name human and get this E1 into play. Unfortunately, don't have a 2-drop. Hornet's Nest is pretty annoying. We did find a 2-drop, which is fantastic. And we can Reflector Mage that nest at some point. Probably next turn. Alright, that's a little bit worrisome that they're just passing the turn here with 3 mana up. We're probably getting something killed, but we're going to go with Reflector Mage on the nest so we can get some damage in. And I'm going to pay 2 life for this Temple Garden rather than play the Mana Confluence now. Potentially we draw something that's not Mana Confluence that comes into play untapped, like an Aether Hub or something. And we'll want to just have never played the Mana Confluence. But it's pretty close. I mean, it's not much different. All right, they just didn't have anything. That's great. And we can Coco into some way to stop Possibility Storm if they have it. It looks like they don't. They're just going to play both sides of the Lovestruck Beast. Card which we can hopefully hit an answer to off this Coco. Certainly going to go with Coco here. Come on, Reflector Mage. Yeah, there's a Reflector Mage. And a Charming Prince I'm pretty happy about. All right, so what are we going to do with the Charming Prince? We could blink the Reflector Mage, bouncing another thing on end step, but they might just not have anything left on end step. Certainly going to bounce the Lovestruck Beast. Prince, I suppose it's just going to scry. Yeah, I think we're just going to scry. Try and find Deputy of Detention or more Reflector Mage or more Collected Company. Pretty much the only thing useful here. Or just another Mantis Rider. I mean, 3 Mantis Riders is pretty good, but we probably don't need a third one. I'm going to bottom this one and also bottom the Aether Hub. Just looking for Reflector Mages and the like. Yeah, they're about to play another Hornet's Nest, which is going to be a problem. Or that same Hornet's Nest, that is. And make another 1/1, yep. Well, I guess I failed to realize how powerful Mantis Rider was going to be post the Hornet's Nest coming back into play. So it's possible we did want all 3 Mantis Riders. It doesn't look like we'll have enough to win this turn, so it's not worth swinging out. Red, blue, white. We do have a couple cards that draw us cards, so it's worth it just to play all our lands when we draw them. Put them to 1 here. If we swung out, we potentially win, but I don't think it's worth it there to try and go for it, although we could just lose to a Possibility Storm here. Yeah, if we had swung out, we did have lethal, but if our opponent has anything, any way to interact with like our Charming Prince, then they're going to have some flying blockers going forward. They're going to get 6 flying blockers, and then it's going to be really hard for us to finish them off. So I didn't think it was worth it to go for the swing all out there before I read the comments and see all the people that say I had lethal. I understand that we potentially had lethal, but any spell there was going to be a big problem. So I think I want to hold this Collected Company in case they do something crazy. And just attack with the Mantis Riders. Stomp their own beast. That makes sense. I like that play. We're going to go with Collected Company in response here. Hopefully being able to eat that Hornet's Nest. And we will find multiple ways to do so. We're Deputy the Lovestruck Beast and Reflector Mage the Hornet's Nest, which means they don't get the trigger. Also, their Hornet's Nest, their Bone Crusher Giant goes to the graveyard. All right, welcome to round 5 with 5 color humans. We are 3-1 at the moment, doing pretty well. Had some close games, but we came away with most of them. We're going to mulligan this hand because it only has 1 land. And we're going to keep this one because it's great. So the Mana Complements allows us to cast Collected Company and Reflector Mage and any black card. So I suppose we can... Well, I'm actually going to drop the Hallowed Fountain here. And we're going to lead with Kythian. Then we're going to scry, looking for more lands with Charming Prince. Certainly could have bottomed Reflector Mage or something as well. Or Reflector Mage instead of the land. Or even Charming Prince instead of the land. But I think it's good to curve out. And we're very likely to be able to with the Charming Prince. Opponent plays an island and passes. All right. Excuse me. Yeah, we're going to just get in there with Kithy baby boy, and drop a Prince. The Charming Prince that he is going to scry us a couple cards. Opponent's going to probably opt in response. We are going to hit a 3rd land and a Thalia's Lieutenant. I believe I want both of those. Although, unsummon. Okay. Interesting. Did not expect that. Harbinger of Tides. All right. Fair enough. It's not exactly a card we want to put back in our opponent's hand. We're taking a lot of damage from our lands this game, though. And we're going to go ahead and scry 2 again. Thraben Inspector, Thalia's Lieutenant. Thraben Inspector is not looking so good, but Thalia's Lieutenant is still very good, so we're going to leave that on top still. Next turn we can Kythian and Thalia's Lieutenant, which is pretty good. So our opponent's playing some sort of Merfolk deck, maybe? With green and Harbinger of Tides? Nykthos? Whoa. What is going on? Interesting. They're like a blue... a majority blue? Nykthos deck? It's really interesting to me. Gonna go ahead and bounce the... Risen Reef. And attack for 5 here. These mana confluences are certainly not doing us any favors with the life loss, but kind of a necessary evil. Opponent Plays an untapped breeding pool in order to play another Harbinger of Tides. Alright. Harbinger of the Tides, that is. So land off the top allows us to experiment 1, Kythian, and Thalia's Lieutenant, which is pretty strong. Or we could just do 2 this turn, 2 next turn. Guess I want to lead with Kitty Baby Boy here. And Lieutenant. Since we want Kythian to be an X3 next turn, that's why we're going to lead with Kythian first and not Thalia's Lieutenant first, because Thalia's Lieutenant is going to be an X3 anyway. Any old way, old how. I guess we could wait, because they're just going to double block, which is kind of bad for us. But if we don't, they potentially gain too much advantage off the Nykthos, so maybe it is correct to just trade Reflector Mage for 1 Harbinger here and push 3 damage. Yeah, I am going to attack actually, just to keep them a little bit lower on Devotion. Not sure if it's going to matter, depends on what's in their hand. Unsummon, jeez. What? Okay, it's a lot of unsummon from our opponent here. Harbinger of the Tides and Unsummon. They're just all about those unsummons. Interesting. I mean, I played Unsummon in my 75 in Simic Stompy and had some pretty good luck with it. I do think it's nice to have 1 mana instant speed removal for your opponent's stuff, specifically creatures. And if your opponent, if your deck can play a tempo game well enough, then you don't really need more than Unsummon. So it kind of works out. But yeah, this is painful that our opponent is just able to stimmy our attack so well. Stimmy? I don't know. Wow, no lands for us. Do I want to play the Lieutenant first? I guess I want to play the E1 first. And then the Lieutenant. Our opponent has never attacked us, and we're at 11. It's okay. We do have some beefy boys coming in. Going to 3. Interesting. I wonder what that means. Maybe they just think they're too far behind and they need like something crazy here. But maybe we're just dead. No idea what our opponent's doing, but they appear to be just playing like a base blue splashing green for Risen Reef Nykthos like Devotion deck. So probably Thassa, probably Hydroid Krasis as a payoff for the Nykthos. Potentially Oko. I mean, why not? You're playing blue and green. Another one. All right, our opponent has had 5 bounce effects this game. Pretty strong. Pretty strong. Ow. I would like our opponent to stop it. So if we play 2 creatures and scry 2, we could find a 4th land to be able to start cocoing And that'll put Lieutenant up to a 6/6, and this Lieutenant up to a 3/3, which is lethal. It means Experiment 1's not lethal, but they're at 3, and Mantis Rider is lethal for sure. So we're just gonna play Mantis Rider. Let's see if that kills them here. I mean, they have access to 5 blue mana with that Nykthos. They're playing counter magic as well, it seems. Merfolk Trickster. That doesn't do anything. Wizard's Retort. Okay. That does something. Alright. So they're like Merfolk / yeah, I guess they're just Devotion. Yeah, I guess I don't really mind taking them off some Devotion here, but they might just let it go. In which case we'll have to just chump with Thalia's Lieutenant, which isn't the best, so that we can still cast Collected Company next turn if we draw a land. Yeah, we're probably going to have to chump now. Maybe it wasn't the best attack. Ooh. Alright. That's pretty bad, but they can't swing out. Oh, maybe they can. Oh, gross. Alright. Pretty decent. Wow. Yeah, we seriously got there by 5 unsummon effects. That was frustrating, since we just never hit that 4th land. I feel like had we hit the 4th land, we'd probably win that game, but what can you do? I like Dromoka's Command, since they're probably playing Thassa. I don't love Thraben Inspector, although if it gets pumped once by Thalia's Lieutenant, it becomes fairly good. It's just, I think we're just going to do this thing where we bring in Dromoka's Commands and Deputies, and we just take out some of the draw extra cards creatures. Just run it like that. Yeah. Let's get some of this bread. All right, game 2 on the play. Get a mulligan. This hand's really bad. Get a mulligan again. All right, that's a keeper. So I'm actually going to bottom Deputy, because we're unlikely to be able to cast it for a while, and same thing with Dromoka's Command. And we're just going to curve out here and hope that that's good enough. We can cast all of these cards if we draw just any other land, basically. Not any other land, but almost any other land, we can cast Mantis Rider. Actually, maybe it is any other land. Anyway, most of our lands, I guess if we have multiple Inspiring Advantages, actually, that would do it as well. Yeah, maybe it is every other land casts Mantis Rider. So we're in pretty good position here to be able to go 1, 2, 3 with a Freebooter that hopefully takes maybe an Unsummon or something. They're clearly playing a lot of those. Niv Magus Elemental. Whoa, that's weird. That's okay, though. And another deputy, not exactly what we wanted to draw, but I'm happy to just trade here, I think. I guess I could have got more information with the Kitesail before attacking or not attacking. Yeah, I'm not going to attack. Let's name human. Magus Elemental, huh? And we're going to whiff. Unfortunately. Yeah, this is looking bad. This is looking bad. But all right. Yeah, it's extremely bad that we didn't hit our third land there. Yeah. If we find a blue source, we can potentially keep up here a bit with Deputy on Master of Waves at some point. But not doing anything on our turn 3 means we're extremely far behind. Ooh, I don't think they meant to play that Hinterland Harbor. Maybe they did. Maybe they don't want to play Gadwick yet. They want to draw some cards off of it since we're so far behind. But now we're just going to play another Freebooter. Because we missed our land again. They have a second Master of Waves. Well, that's a beating. Huh. All right. Now I imagine they're just going to play Master of Waves. No, they're going to play Gadwick, it looks like. Huh. And they must have drawn a 1-drop. So they must have drawn Unsummon, which is awful for us. Gonna lead with Rogue Refiner so that we can refuel this Aether Hub so that we can actually cast the other creatures in our hand the next couple turns. Didn't have to play it before combat since they're likely to have a unsummon here. No, it's an opt. All right. It's also pretty good. So yeah, we just actually don't have the ability to wait in order to try and get both Master of Waves. Because we'll just die. We'll just actually die. So we have to get this Master of Waves right now. And hopefully draw some other way to deal with the other one. Yeah, I'll name human again. I don't think we can really attack with the Freebooters since they're able to tap something down next turn with the casting of their other Master Waves. Gadwig's kind of sweet with Harbinger of the Tides, because you'll tap something of theirs and then bounce it, kind of like Mirror Regery does. We could triple block, but then they'll get back Master of Waves. So that seems bad. I think we're just going to take this hit. Refiner. Doesn't quite do it. I guess we're not dead. Let's just see if they have the Wizard's Retort. If they do, we're just going to scoop, but they did not. That's good. And we sort of have these elementals covered. We have 6 blockers for them. So, could be worse. And we certainly have a lot of damage on the board, so they do have to be a bit careful. Uh-oh, what is 6 mana? This is very worrisome. Don't hurt me. Another Gadwig, yeah. That's pretty powerful here. That's pretty good. Alright, can we somehow win the game next turn? And not die this turn? Probably not. So our best draw is either Collected Company or Deputy. I guess Collected Company would obviously be better. And then potentially we could hit another Manus Rider and a Thalia's Lieutenant. And then we'll have lethal in the air. Yeah, so that's kind of what we're banking on here. I think we have to Collected Company into Thalia's Lieutenant, Mantis Rider. They're just not going to attack at all. That is definitely not a Collected Company, unfortunately. Let's lead with green, blue, red. Let's lead with that. Potentially hitting Thalia's Lieutenant would be great. All right, Concealed Courtyard. Not ideal. Not ideal at all. I guess we're just going to attack with the Mantis Rider. A little too scary not to just do that. Looking at the board, we're not just dead here. Our opponent just drew a ton of cards and is probably going to be able to tap down a lot of our creatures, and we're potentially dead. But we're not necessarily dead. And that's a big difference. Interesting. Niv Magus Elemental is really interesting. I guess that's why they're playing all the unsummons. Oh, and it's an Elemental for Risen Reef. Yeah, all right. Fair enough. Harbinger bouncing Deputy. Not bouncing. Bouncing Deputy would be gross. I think we just lose to that. Yeah. All right. That's a billion dudes. Can we survive somehow? So, I mean, if we can survive, we have Deputy to take their masters, which gets rid of all the elementals. But they're drawing like 100 cards here, so... They're doing the fun thing where you have Risen Reef and Master of Waves. Okay, yeah, that's game. We can concede to that. Ooh, and it's late. I need to... All right. Well, we went 3 and 2. Womp womp. It's fine. All right. Hello and welcome to the Deck Tech for 5-color humans. You've seen me play 4-color humans a couple months ago, and that was fun. That was a little bit more streamlined into just getting our opponent dead. We were playing Benelish Marshal in that build. This build is eschewing Benelish Marshal and Smuggler's Copter for Kitesail Freebooter and Rogue Refiner. And then we get more options in the sideboard because we get access to black with Sin Collector and Zathrid Necromancer. But basically the deck is very similar otherwise. I added a land as well because hitting 4 for Collected Company is pretty important. Hitting 3 is very important. So yeah, just added a land. Generally, if you're on the fence about adding a land, do it. It's probably correct. But yeah, our mana base is actually kind of good. We have 11 gold lands in the 3 Aether Hubs, 4 mana Confluence, and 4 unclaimed territories. So the mana actually works with this deck. If you do the Karsten math with it, it actually all works really well. So we're not generally going to have too much of an issue casting our spells, even though we're playing a 5-color deck, which does feel really good. I implore anyone who is trying to build a mana base, trying to build a deck, to use a hypergeometric calculator. There are a lot of help tools for like how to do that, why you want to do that. Look at some Karsten math. He kind of takes the hypergeometric equations and shows you why he uses them and stuff like that. So I recommend that. I'm sure TCGplayer also has some mana math from like Seth Manfield or Brian Braun-Duin, which you can find on our website here. And so do that, get your mana base right, make sure you can cast your spells at least 85% of the time when you draw them, and it's going to be that much better for you and your weird brews that you're building. Mana is the hardest part of Magic to get right, I think. And yeah, definitely you level up quite a bit getting it right. And you'll just know if your deck is able to do the things that it wants to do on the turns that it wants to do them. And I think everyone could use a little bit of a level up in that field of things, including myself. I'm going to try and incorporate more hypogeometric calculations into my builds. And I hope you do too. But yeah, it's basically the same as the 4-color humans deck, other than no Smuggler's Copter. It's banned now. And no Benelish Marshal. We're playing Rogue Refiner in order to turn back on our Aether Hubs and also draw some extra cards, which is good against the mid-range decks, against the control decks. We're going to be able to refill our hand a bit with Rogue Refiner. Definitely a solid card. Obviously doesn't pump your team, which makes it a little bit worse as far as getting your opponent dead. But a 3-mana 3/2 still does a decent job of attacking your opponent to death. And with Collected Company and Thraben Inspector and Charming Prince all together, we have like a fairly resilient deck that can also beat down and kill on turn 4. So yeah, we can certainly defeat our opponent on turn 4, deal more than 20 damage with a good curve of like E1 into Thalia's Lieutenant, into Mantis Rider, into like a good Coco, or just another Mantis Rider. That's plenty of damage. They're dead. But we also have this like robust Kitesail Freebooter, take your important Supreme Verdict or whatever it is, Planeswalker, Hour of Promise, removal spell, whatever it ends up being, Kitesail Freebooter can get it out of the way, and we can just continue to beat down. So that's a pretty good angle of attack as well. And Reflector Mage, keep them slowed down. Mantis Rider, keep the beats going. And then obviously Collected Company, hitting on everything else in the deck. Literally every other card that's not Collected Company is a creature. So we're never going to whiff on Collected Company. And we're very rarely not going to hit 2 things on Collected Company since we're playing 33 creatures in this deck. But yeah, moving on to the sideboard, we've got 2 Rest in Peace. I think Rest in Peace is a pretty important card still. A lot of decks are pretty soft to it. And against those decks, we certainly want to bring in some Rest in Peace. I'm only on 2 right now because I think the amount of graveyard decks has taken a downswing a little bit in the last couple weeks, but I could be wrong about that. I do think most of the format right now is doing a lot of fair green things with Oko. So I'm on 3 Revoker in order to try to combat that a little bit, naming Lenore Elf, or naming Oko itself, or naming Nissa, or any number of problem permanents with activated abilities. Revoker is pretty good. 4 Deputy of Detention. This card's fantastic. I don't need to talk about that very much. I'm sure you played with this one before. Detention Sphere on a stick. That's Coco-able. And then the black cards. And this is part of why we're dipping into black. Kitesail Freebooter being the main deck reason, so that we have some more game against the combo decks, the control decks, the decks that are just trying to have one big turn with their Possibility Storm or whatever it is. Kitesail Freebooter, fantastic there. Sin Collector gives us even more against those decks. You can grab an instant or sorcery and exile it, which is kind of useful. Great with Charming Prince. We can blink that and do it again. Great with Collected Company, obviously. Don't have to mention that. Obviously, all of our creatures are going to be hits for Collected Company. But Zathrid Necromancer is another one that's very good against the removal heavy decks. Also great against Supreme Verdict. It's going to turn all of our humans into 2/2 zombies when they die. And that stacks too. So if you have 2 Zathrid Necromancers in play, they wipe your board. You're going to end up with about 1,000 zombies, depending on how many creatures you had on the board, but double the amount of humans you had on the board. You get that many zombies and just crush your opponent on the following turn, hopefully. And then a couple of Dromoka's Command. It's nice to have some more removal, and also great against like Dasa, and Wilderness Reclamation and Possibility Storm, which are fairly popular. I mean, Wilderness Reclamation more than the other 2. But yeah, Dromoka's Command, pretty powerful card. I think it's just the right power level for Pioneer as far as doing a lot of different things and doing them fairly efficiently. So yeah, that's the deck. I hope you enjoy it. I hope you give it a try. I've been messing around with different humans builds since the beginning of the format, really. And I think humans still has some ways to go to be like tier 1, but certainly it's a player. You could jump this into a tournament and do pretty well. It's doing a proactive thing that is fairly consistent and fairly robust. So yeah, have fun with it and let me know how it goes. Thanks for hanging out. I'll see y'all next week here on TCGplayer.com.